Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive. This time we're taking a look at ARK Ideas Big Ideas 2025 report.
Yeah, their stuff's always pretty thought-provoking.
To say the least, this report lays out 11 big ideas that ARK believes are going to be, well, kind of huge in shaping the future.
And they've got a pretty good track record when it comes to spotting those big trends early on.
Exactly, so we're going to be digging into a few of those ideas today.
Specifically, I think we should focus on how these different technologies are starting to converge.
Yeah, convergence is a big theme throughout the report, but before we get into that, I have to share this analogy. They use the second half of the chessboard. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh yeah, it's a classic way to illustrate exponential growth, especially when it comes to tech.
Right, so picture this. You've got a chessboard, and you put 1 grain of weight on the first square.
Then you double it on the second square, so 2 grains, then 4, then 8, and so on.
It seems pretty harmless at first, right?
But here's the catch, it's on the second half of the chessboard where things get really wild.
Suddenly you're dealing with millions, then billions, then trillions of grains.
And that's where ARK Invest says we are right now with technology.
We're on that second half of the chessboard, and the pace of change is accelerating like crazy.
They've been tracking these performance doublings across all kinds of fields, and it's mind-blowing.
They say we hit that halfway point back in 2008, and things have only sped up since then. By 2030, we're going to be at the end of that chessboard.
Think about all the changes we've seen just in the past decade, and then try to imagine what the next few years could bring.
It's exciting, but it's also a little intimidating, right?
Definitely. And it's not just abstract stuff. It's going to impact pretty much every aspect of our lives.
Absolutely. This isn't just about some techie stuff happening in a lab somewhere. This is about our everyday lives.
Exactly. Think faster drug development, self-driving cars becoming the norm, AI solving problems that would take us humans years to figure out.
It's like we're standing on the edge of a whole new era.
And what's really interesting to me is how these individual technologies are starting to work together. It's not just each one advancing on its own, they're combining and amplifying each other.
Creating this kind of chain reaction of progress.
Exactly. It's like this network where each connection makes the whole system even more powerful.
ARK Invest calls it network density, and they say it's already increased by 30% in the past year alone. So what are some of the key areas where we're seeing this convergence play out?
Well, one area that really stands out is the convergence of artificial intelligence and multiomics.
Multiomics. For those of us who aren't scientists, break that down for us.
Sure. So multiomics is basically the study of all those different omes in biology, like the genome, the proteome, the metabolome, all that good stuff. It's generating a massive amount of data, and AI is the key to unlocking all that information.
So we're talking about personalized medicine.
Exactly. AI can analyze these incredibly complex patterns within our biological data. Imagine a future where doctors can predict and prevent diseases before they even arise, or develop treatments that are tailored to each person's unique makeup.
Now that's the kind of future I can get behind. What else is AIK highlighting?
Another convergence that I think is really fascinating is the intersection of smart contracts and AI agents.
Wait, AI agents getting paid. Tell me more about that.
Well, think about it. AI agents are becoming incredibly sophisticated. They can perform tasks, analyze data, even make decisions.
Yeah, they're basically like little digital assistants, right?
And with blockchain technology, we now have these smart contracts that can automate agreements and transactions in a secure and transparent way. So you can imagine a future where these AI agents are autonomously negotiating deals, managing resources, even developing new business models.
All without any human intervention.
That's the idea. It's like a whole new level of efficiency and trust. And because everything's recorded on a blockchain, it's tractable, verifiable, and tamper-proof.
Wow, that's pretty mind-blowing.
And then there's the convergence of next-generation cloud technology and energy.
Right, because all these advancements require a ton of computing power, which requires a lot of energy.
Exactly. It's like a positive feedback loop. These advancements drive the need for better energy solutions, which in turn will power even more advancements.
Okay, so we've talked about this network density and how different technologies are converging. But where are we actually seeing this acceleration in action? What are some real-world examples?
Well, one example that's already impacting our lives is AI agents.
Oh yeah, I use those all the time. Voice assistants, chatbots, personalized recommendations on streaming services. It's amazing how integrated they've become.
It's not just about those everyday interactions, though. Businesses are using AI agents to automate tasks, streamline customer service, analyze market trends. It's really changing the way we work and do business.
Like those customer service chatbots that pop up on websites.
Yeah, those are a simple example, but it goes much deeper than that. Take OpenAI, for example, the company behind ChatGPT. They've managed to monetize their AI technology incredibly quickly, even faster than some of those giant social media platforms that have been around for years.
So AI agents are definitely something to watch.
For sure, they're just one example of how convergence is shaping the future. What about cryptocurrencies? Those seem to be evolving pretty rapidly too.
Yeah, especially with the rise of stablecoins. Those seem to be gaining a lot of traction.
They're definitely shaking things up. Think of them as a bridge between traditional finance and the world of crypto.
So they're kind of like a gateway drug.
Well, not exactly, but they do make it easier for people to dip their toes into the crypto world. Unlike Bitcoin or Ethereum, which can be pretty volatile, stablecoins are designed to maintain a stable value.
So they're pegged to something like the US dollar,
Exactly. One stablecoin is usually meant to be equivalent to $1, so they offer a level of stability that you just don't get with other cryptocurrencies.
which makes them a lot more appealing for everyday transactions, right?
Absolutely. And we're seeing record-breaking volumes of stablecoins being traded and used all around the world.
Do you have any numbers to back that up?
Sure. In December 2024 alone, the daily volume of stablecoin transactions hit an incredible $270 billion. That translates to a whopping $2.7 trillion in monthly volume.
Wow, those numbers are huge. So which blockchains are leading the charge in this stablecoin revolution?
Well, we're seeing a lot of activity on Solana, Tron, Ethereum, and Base, but here's an interesting twist. While there's all this talk about de-dollarization happening globally,
With countries trying to move away from the US dollar?
exactly. But in the world of digital assets, it seems like things are moving in the opposite direction. Dollar-pegged stablecoins are absolutely dominant right now.
So it's like we're seeing two contradictory trends happening at the same time. On one hand, a move away from the US dollar, and on the other, this massive influx of dollar-pegged stablecoins. What do you make of that?
It's definitely a paradox, but it also highlights the unique role that stablecoins are playing in the global financial system. They offer this incredible combination of stability, accessibility, and efficiency.
And a lot of that efficiency is thanks to those layer 2 solutions, right?
Absolutely. Think of layer twos as superhighways built on top of existing blockchain networks.
Like express lanes for transactions.
Exactly. They allow for much faster and cheaper transactions. So, for example, Ethereum is like a busy city with lots of traffic. Layer twos are like bypass routes that let you avoid all that congestion.
Makes sense. And I've noticed that we're seeing a shift away from those big centralized exchanges like Binance toward more decentralized platforms.
That's definitely a trend we're seeing. Centralized exchanges face some challenges in 2024, particularly with the Binance settlement with the SEC. This led a lot of users to explore alternatives, and decentralized exchanges, also known as DEXs, saw a surge in popularity.
So is this move towards decentralized exchanges just about avoiding regulation?
It's partly that, but there's more to it. As we just talked about, Layer 2 solutions have made transactions on DXs a lot faster and cheaper. Plus, there's this growing desire for greater transparency and control over one's assets. With a DX, you retain direct control over your funds rather than having to trust a third party.
That makes sense. And I guess there's also the appeal of censorship resistance, right?
Absolutely. DEXs are generally more resistant to censorship and government control, which is a big draw for some users. So it's a combination of factors driving this shift toward decentralization.
So we've got these stablecoins, they're gaining traction, they're being used on these decentralized exchanges. But what are people actually doing with them? What are the most popular use cases right now?
Right now, the two big ones are peer-to-peer transactions and personal wallet storage. People are using stablecoins to send money to each other quickly and cheaply across borders without having to go through traditional banking systems. They're also using them to hold their savings in a digital format, especially in regions with unstable currencies.
It's like having a digital dollar that's accessible anywhere in the world with minimal fees.
Exactly. But as the DeFi space continues to mature, we expect to see growth in other areas like lending, borrowing, and trading on those decentralized exchanges.
It sounds like the stablecoin landscape is getting pretty crowded these days. We've got Tether, USDC, DAI. Are there any other notable players emerging?
One company that's caught my attention is Athena Labs. They've developed a really interesting approach to generating yield on stablecoins.
Oh, how does that work?
They do it by tokenizing what are called delta neutral positions.
Okay, you're going to have to break that down for me.
So basically, a delta neutral position means that your portfolio is structured to minimize the impact of price fluctuations. It's kind of like a hedging strategy.
Oh, so you're protected from the ups and downs of the market.
Right. And what Athena Labs has done is create a way to tokenize these delta neutral positions so you can earn passive income on your stablecoin holdings.
How much are we talking?
Well, the potential yields are pretty impressive. We're talking 20–30%, depending on market conditions. Of course, there's always a risk that yields could turn negative in a bear market, but it's still a fascinating development.
That's pretty aggressive. It seems like stablecoins and DeFi are really starting to gain some serious momentum. But let's zoom out a bit and talk about blockchain scaling in general. It feels like every day there's a new development or a new layer 2 solution popping up.
It's moving incredibly fast. One of the biggest advancements lately has been the implementation of EIP 4844 on Ethereum.
EIP 4844.
It's also known as proto-danksharding. It's a pretty technical topic, but essentially it's had a huge impact on Layer 2 networks, particularly in terms of reducing transaction costs.
So cheaper and faster transactions.
Exactly. We saw fees on Ethereum Layer 2s drop by a factor of 10.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it makes using blockchain technology a lot more affordable and accessible for everyone, and we're seeing that reflected in the data. Daily active addresses on Layer 2 networks like Arbitrum, Optimism, and Base are surging.
So it's not just about speculation and trading anymore. People are actually finding real-world uses for these platforms.
Exactly. We're moving toward a future where blockchain technology is seamlessly integrated into our daily lives, and stablecoins are playing a big role in making that happen.
It's a pretty exciting time to be following this space. It feels like we're on the verge of a major shift in how we think about money, finance, and technology. But as with any major shift, there are going to be challenges, right?
Absolutely. It's the beauty of innovation. It's full of possibilities and challenges. Speaking of innovation, are you ready to talk about something a little more tangible?
Yeah, let's dive into something a bit more concrete. Okay, so let's shift gears a bit and talk about those robotaxis we touched on earlier.
Yeah, those self-driving cars are getting a lot of attention these days.
For good reason. I feel like we're on the verge of a major transportation revolution. First, we saw electric vehicles taking over.
Oh yeah, the shift to electric is definitely happening.
Big time. 2024 saw a huge surge in global EV sales.
It seems like consumers are finally ready to ditch those gas guzzlers.
I think so. But electric is just the first step, right? The real game changer is going to be autonomous driving.
Absolutely. And it looks like Tesla and Waymo are leading the charge.
They're the ones to watch for sure. But remember back in the early 2010s, there was so many automakers making these big promises about self-driving cars.
Yeah, they were all saying that we'd have autonomous vehicles everywhere by 2020. What happened to all those predictions?
Right. It felt like we were on the fast track to a Jetsons-like future, but then things just kind of fizzled out.
Well, it turns out that developing truly autonomous vehicles is a lot harder than it looks.
I guess it's not as simple as just slapping some sensors on a car and letting it loose on the roads.
Not even close. You've got to gather and process massive amounts of data, develop these super sophisticated algorithms.
And create safety systems that can handle pretty much anything.
Exactly. It's a huge engineering challenge, and a lot of companies simply underestimated the difficulty and the investment required.
So Tesla and Waymo are the ones who had the vision and the resources to stick with it.
Yeah, they've been plugging away at it all this time, and now they're starting to see the fruits of their labor.
Waymo launched their commercial robotaxi service back in 2018.
That's right, and Tesla's been working on their full self-driving system, which they plan to roll out across their entire fleet eventually.
Yeah, their beta program's been getting a lot of attention. Some drivers are raving about it,
While others are still a bit skeptical.
which is understandable. Trusting your life to a computer isn't exactly easy.
For sure. But what does ARK Invest think about Tesla's progress?
Well, they seem to be pretty optimistic. They think Tesla has a big advantage because of all the real-world driving data they've collected.
That network density again.
Exactly. All those Tesla vehicles out there on the roads are gathering data every single day.
It's like a giant mobile data gathering network.
And ARK is also impressed with Tesla's work on developing their own AI chips and software.
So they're not relying on third-party suppliers?
Yep, they're doing it all in-house. So does ARK think Tesla's going to launch a full-blown robotaxi service anytime soon?
They're actually predicting that it could happen as early as 2025.
Wow, that's just around the corner.
I know, and if ARK's projections are right, it could completely disrupt the transportation industry.
Imagine a world where you just summon a robotaxi whenever you need it. No more car payments, no more parking hassles, no more traffic jams.
It sounds pretty utopian, doesn't it?
It does. But of course, there are still some challenges to overcome.
Right. Regulatory approval is going to be huge.
And public acceptance. People need to feel comfortable getting into a car that's driving itself.
Yeah, there's a trust factor there. And of course, the technology still needs to be perfected.
It's not just about getting it to work, it's about getting it to work perfectly, safely and reliably in all kinds of conditions.
Exactly. We can't afford to have any glitches when lives are at stake.
True, but even with those challenges, I'm really excited about the potential of robotaxis. Lower transportation costs, less traffic congestion, maybe even fewer accidents.
Yeah, the potential benefits are huge. And this is just one example of how all these big ideas we've been talking about are coming together to reshape our world.
It's incredible. We're living in a time of rapid innovation, and it feels like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible.
And the pace of change is only going to accelerate from here. The decisions we make today are going to have a huge impact on the future.
Which is a bit daunting, but also really exciting.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that we're not just passive observers of this technological revolution, we're active participants.
That's a great way to put it. We're shaping the future with the choices we make, the technologies we embrace, the values we prioritize. So as we wrap up this deep dive into ARK Invest's Big Ideas for 2025,
What are some key takeaways for our listeners?
I think the biggest one is this. The future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something we actively create.
So let's create a future we can all be proud of.
Absolutely. That's it for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us. COFI.